Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the w.a.v.e. Wellness podcast. I'm your host, Lauren McNabb, and today we're going to talk about autism and the dimensions of wellness. Welcome to the w.a.v.e. Wellness podcast. I'm your witchy, autistic, vegan, NB host, Lauren McNabb, the Green Mage. Together, we'll explore wellness beyond the mainstream, guided by the lens of intersectional feminism. Get ready for a magical journey. Let's dive in. It is April. It is Autism Acceptance Month or Autism Awareness Month. I don't know what it's officially called, but it's April and it's Autism Month. I prefer Autism Acceptance. I think enough people are aware, but then again, maybe not. There's a lot of instances that show us that a lot of people are very much not aware of autism and what autism can look like and what it does look like. Everyone should know by now that it is a spectrum, but I think when people hear autism as a spectrum, they think that means you're either very autistic or only a little autistic. That's not how it works, but we'll get into that. So it's been a few weeks since I've recorded, period. It has just been crazy busy. I was doing so good at recording every week, some kind of video, doing a podcast every other week, but I had a lot come up. My birthday was back in March, and normally I record my podcast on Wednesdays, but it was supposed to be the farmer's market birthday party that day. Not for me. It was the birthday party of the farmer's market. So I had already planned on taking the night off and going to the market because when the markets are really busy, my husband needs help. Well, it ended up being really stormy that day, or it looked like it was going to be really stormy. So like an hour or two before we were about to leave, they canceled the market. But we were luckily able to pop up somewhere else, a grocery store close by. So shout out to Community Grocery, downtown Corpus Christi, for letting us pop up there. And, it wasn't super busy, but it was really chill. The weather was like nice and cloudy. It felt like we were in like an anime movie. We had ramen for dinner. I had a sandwich. They had ramen. And was it rainy enough to cancel the market? No, but it was cloudy enough that people wouldn't have come out. And that wouldn't have made for a very good birthday party because there was like face painting and we were, giving away stuff for the kids, and it just wouldn't have been a good turnout. So they rescheduled it for the following week, which means I had to take off the next week as well. Keep in mind, I had also made like 150 cupcakes for this market. Little mini vegan cupcakes, chocolate ones and orange ones. And orange cupcakes are really good, by the way. They sound weird, but blood orange vanilla cupcakes are delicious. They taste like push pops. And so I ended up bringing some to the store with us and just freezing the rest and bringing them the following week. So I was exhausted from that. My arms really hurt. I do massage full time, but icing cupcakes, especially mini cupcakes, is a lot harder. My arms were pretty sore after that. But I had already planned on taking that night off from going to the poker room to massage just because it was my birthday. And I was like, no, I'm going to be at the market all day. It's my birthday. Like, let me just have the night off. So I took that night off. I did work that weekend. But just because of that, I wasn't able to record that week. And then what was the week after? I think the week after would have been the 2nd, if I'm looking at my calendar right. And so that's when the market ended up being. So again, I had to take the night off, couldn't record, had to go to the market, did go to poker that night because Friday I wasn't going to poker because Saturday was my son's taekwondo tournament. I didn't know how long that was going to last. That ended up being almost all day. Like we were there like 9 to 4-ish, 9 to 3 maybe. And that was really cool. He did really well. He got first place in forms. He did not place in board breaking, but there were little girls from other schools doing flips and stuff. So he couldn't compete with that. Maybe next year he'll do a cartwheel or something. And then the next day we had another farmer's market. We had the Port Aransas Farmer's Market, which, I mean, we were just already exhausted at this point, having, the busy market and the taekwondo tournament, but that market has done really well for us. So like we were committed to going. So I didn't go to poker that night either. So I missed 2 days, which kind of stinks, but I was able to go to poker right after that market. And then the following Wednesday, I don't know. Yeah, because today's the 16th. So April 9th, I don't know. For some reason, I still didn't get around to it. I don't think I went to the market, but I think I was just really, really busy catching up on everything else because we had so much going on. I needed to catch up. But also we had another market this past Saturday on the 12th. We did the Earth Day, Bay Day festival celebration in Corpus Christi. And so I needed to kind of catch up on stuff and get ready for that. So I'm a little behind. So I apologize if you've been like binging these and then you ran out. We're back. I do plan on filming another podcast next week just to kind of catch up. And just because it is Autism Awareness Month, I want to be able to make a couple about autism. So you guys have those to listen to. But this should come out on Easter Sunday. If I get it edited earlier, I might post it earlier. But yeah, so that's where we're at. So yeah, I've just been super busy working and reading, and I finally finished the first unit of my yoga teacher training yesterday. And then I finished this book today. So Mark Hoppus's Fahrenheit 182. I pre-ordered this back in like October, and it just came in this week. Or let's see, what's today? Wednesday. Yeah, it came in like Friday, I think. Friday or Saturday. And it is signed. And I was super excited about this. I was always a Tom girly, but after listening to this, Mark's a lot more relatable, I think. Yeah, so it's signed. But I will admit, Tom lost me a little bit the first time he quit Blink. But always loved Mark too, of course. But it's on audiobook on Spotify. So I've just been like binging the audiobook for a couple days. So I just finished it and it's so good. So since I finished that so quickly, I'm able to get back to this one, Never Whistle at Night. It is a collection of short horror stories written by Indigenous authors. I'm almost halfway through with that. It's pretty good. It's really easy to read because all the stories are literally like 10 pages or less. They're really good. There's a couple that I was like, couldn't quite get into it, but most of them have been really, really good. It's very, like Black Mirror supernatural-esque. But of course, like with that Indigenous perspective. So very cool. Now to get into today's topic of the dimensions of wellness as they relate to autism. I did pick up this book a while back, Self-Care for Autistic People by Dr. Megan Anna Neff. I'm about halfway through it. Again, it's very easy to read. I just read too many things at once. But it's very much an instruction manual. Very easy to read, very easy to reference. You don't have to read the whole thing. If you're like, oh, I just need to address my internalized ableism. Like there's a couple pages about that. That's what I'm on right now. So, you can very much read it front to back, which is what I am doing. But yeah, it's been really helpful. So I may maybe unintentionally reference it. I just don't want anyone to think I am taking credit for any of the ideas in this book. It's been a while since I've read it, but some of the things have just stuck with me. And so when I was coming up, I dropped my notes. When I was coming up with my little list just off the top of my head, some of those things may be from the book. They may be not. They may be personal experiences. They may be things that I've read from other autistics, like in the forums on Facebook. So I am by no means an expert on autism. I have no formal training. I've literally read half that book and watched a lot of YouTube videos. There's a lot of really awesome autistic creators who post really regularly. And yeah, so a lot of this is just kind of coming from personal experience and what's worked for me. And that being said, what works for me might not work for you. Obviously, I really like the phrase, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, because we are all so different. It is a spectrum, meaning, we all have strengths and weaknesses, I guess, for lack of better words, in different areas. And yeah, so, don't be too harsh in critiquing me, please. But please, in the comments, share some ideas about, or share what's worked for you or what has not worked for you, because you might help someone else better than I can. So I'm coming at this from the perspective of a health coach. Sorry, I'm fidgeting under the desk and kicked my shredder. I need something to fidget with. It's okay. I like holding the mic. It's not meant to be held. It's meant to stand. I want like a pink fuzzy mic, like Trixie and Katya, that I can actually hold, but that's fine. So coming at this from the perspective of a health coach, and so we're going to break down the different dimensions of wellness and how you as an autistic person may want to address these things. Again, I'm not an expert. I don't have all the answers. They're kind of just things to think about if you're not aware of the different aspects of wellness. A lot of people just think health just means diet and exercise, and sleep, but those are physical health aspects, but there's actually a lot more to wellness. And so this is kind of really just to give you my perspective and also just some things to think about. And then you can use tools like this book to figure out what works for you and how to support yourself or get support that you need. I also understand not everyone has support. Not everyone has enough support. I have a very, very supportive partner. He's not autistic I hate to even say that we can tell. He does have autistic traits, but I think they may more be his ADHD. But he definitely has special interests and gets hyperfixated on things, and will yap your ear off about his special interests and says awkward things. And I look at him like, why did you just say that to that customer? They don't care. So again, neurodivergent, yes. Autistic, maybe. I honestly think he overthought his Radzar autism test because every time he was like, well, what does this mean? I don't understand. So who knows? But is he diagnosed like I am? No. And I am self-diagnosed. But how on earth would a doctor ever diagnose me when I can't unmask in front of people? My hands are very purple. I just dyed my hair like an hour before this. I don't think a doctor would ever be able to diagnose me, or psychiatrist or anything. My husband and my son are literally the only people I unmask in front of ever. So I don't know how I would ever be able to get diagnosed, honestly. Even if I did, they'd be like, okay, well, what does that matter? You're doing fine. Sure, I'm just fine. We're all doing fine, right? Everything's great in the world. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay, so the first aspect we'll talk about is physical wellness. I think that's the thing that most people understand. So physical wellness is things like diet, exercise, sleep. Stress, I guess, could go under that as well. So some of the things that help me and that I've heard other autistic people say is we do really well with having a routine. And it's not even so much the routine itself. I think it's more the safety of the predictability, because I know I get very upset by changes, like by last minute changes or changes in the plan, especially when we have a plan, right? And sometimes we just have this plan in our head and we get upset when other people aren't following the plan, but maybe they didn't know the plan, right? Like I get really upset with my husband if I'm like, because I have a hard time waking up in the morning, right? Because that's a change. Well, that's a transition change, right? That's a transition, and I really struggle with those. And so getting out of bed has always been hard for me, like from the time I was little, literally until this morning. Like this morning, I got up and made my tea, and I got back in bed, and then I got up an hour later. I tried. I did one thing, but I was really like, I'm gonna wake up and I have an hour, so I'm gonna work out for 20 minutes. I'm gonna walk for 20 minutes. I'm gonna do 20 minutes of yoga. No, I got up, made my tea, went back to bed. But I had an idea of a routine to myself. But sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep snoozing. I'm like, but when my husband comes back in here to grab his phone or to get dressed or whatever, I'm like, then I'll get up. And then my husband doesn't come back. And then I get mad at him. I'm like, well, I was waiting on you to like come back in the bedroom and make noise so I could get up. No, I need to just have my own routine. And if I do need him to help with that routine, I need to let him know that. And I do let him know that, and he still doesn't help me sometimes. Like I've made it very clear, like I cannot get out of bed by myself. I need your help. I need you to come back and wake me up. And then it's, well, I thought you were up. I saw you on your phone. I thought you were up. I heard your alarm. I thought you were. I'm like, no, like I need you to pull me out of bed. I have such a hard time waking up. Transitions are so hard for me. I will just snooze and snooze and snooze. So I personally need help with that. I don't have an answer for you guys. If you also have trouble with transitions, whether it's waking up in the morning or getting off the couch at night to go get in bed, just starting that whole like nighttime routine, because it's so much, right? So that's why I kind of do try to have like a pre-plan the night before. It makes it a little bit easier because I think it's also just the thought of like having to think of everything I need to do, right? Like, okay, I gotta get up, I gotta make my tea, and I need to refill my water, and I need to brush my teeth, and I need to start laundry, and then I gotta go clean the massage room, and then, well, I should probably pick up, like, it just gets to be too overwhelming, and I don't want to get up. So if the night before, I'm like, okay, all I have to do is get up and turn the dryer on. Then it's like, okay, it's just one thing I have to do. Like I still make my tea, but then I just got to start the dryer. And so just taking like that little bit of guesswork out of it helps a little bit. So just having routines or kind of having a plan for a routine. So another big part is food. And a lot of us have safe foods that we will eat, or kind of, I guess you could call them like hyperfixation foods, where they're your foods that you eat every day, no matter what, until you can't stand them. So my current breakfast is tofu scramble with potato, with a side of black beans, with microgreens and salsa. And for a while it was avocado toast. I didn't like get sick of avocado toast by any means. I just didn't want to eat so much bread. So I switched to tofu and potatoes. But I will do waffles every now and then too. Like once a week I'll do chocolate chip waffles. But when we get in these food routines, we may be lacking some nutrients. Or sometimes our safe foods are just not very nutrient dense, but it's all we want to eat. And so obviously that can become a health concern. Not always, I'm just saying it can be. And sometimes we don't know because maybe we don't go to the doctor, we don't get blood work, we don't have symptoms, that kind of thing. But if it's a concern to you, there are some workarounds. So there's things like those electrolyte drinks like w.a.v.e, LMNT. They're electrolyte drinks, but they also have other vitamins in them. So one that can get you drinking more water because they taste good if you don't like water. I like to mix the strawberry and the lemon liquid IV, and it tastes like strawberry lemonade, and it's super yummy. And I think it has B12 in it also, which is good because I'm vegan. There's also like powdered greens. So like my farm makes them, but we can only sell it locally. But I'm sure you've seen like these greens powders out there. And so drinking just water with greens powders sounds kind of gross to me. But if you have like a smoothie, you could put it in there. Or if you're making spaghetti, you can put it in the sauce. So just things like that. Some kind of like supplement powder, greens powder. or even just hiding blended vegetables in things like sauces, smoothies, soups. So you can still have your safe foods and just sneak veggies into them, which is not really sneaky because like you're doing it, you know it's in there. And sometimes that can be hard, just knowing that something different is in there. But maybe just start with a very little bit. And then try it. And if it still tastes the same, then, your brain will tell you, okay, it's still safe to eat. But, you don't want to go change your safe food completely, but just maybe sneaking in some fruits or some vegetables a little at a time. And so actually, let's talk a little bit more about vegetables. So a lot of people just assume you have to eat vegetables to be healthy. And vegetables are some of the most healthy foods, vegetables, legumes, things like that, grains, whole grains, but maybe you just like fruit. Okay, so just eat fruit. Like that's okay too. It is still going to have fiber and a lot of different micronutrients in it. Don't feel like you have to force yourself to eat veggies if you hate them, because that's just going to cause other problems, right? And you can also experiment with different textures. So different vegetables all have different textures, obviously. But they also have different textures based on how you cook them. Like maybe you like microwaved squishy broccoli. I used to when I was a kid with some Velveeta. Amazing. That's what my mom would make. Butter and Velveeta in the microwave. And that's how we would eat our broccoli. And it was frozen and then microwaved. So very soft and squishy, which I still don't mind. But now we air fry our broccoli with just like a little bit of oil sprayed on it. And so it's like crispy, has a different flavor, has a different texture. You can also roast veggies. You can saute them. You can chop them up into little bits. You can eat big chunks. And so different veggies are going to have different textures based on how you cook them, how long you cook them. So you have options. And canned and frozen vegetables are just as nutritious as fresh vegetables. So don't feel like you're cheating yourself or missing out on anything just because either you prefer canned or frozen, or financially that's what you can do, or you're just ADHD and don't remember to eat the vegetables and you don't want to waste them. You don't want to waste money buying fresh vegetables that you're not going to eat. Canned and frozen are great. Let's talk about sleep. I don't feel qualified to talk about this because I actually don't have a problem sleeping. I feel very lucky. I've always been a good sleeper. I've had maybe a handful of nights my entire life that I've had insomnia, but I know insomnia, trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to go back to sleep are really big issues in the neurodivergent community. My mom has a really hard time sleeping. I do think it's related to her anxiety, and I don't know anyone with autism without anxiety, so those two are probably linked. And I think that the trouble sleeping and the anxiety are most likely from gut health issues, which autistic people do have gut health issues a lot of the times. I know I do or did. I'm actually having like an eczema breakout right now. That's gut health related. I started taking a probiotic again, and so I feel like I'm having like a little bit of a, I don't want to call it detox because that's not what it is, but I'm having like a bit of a reaction to starting the probiotic again because my gut health's probably been not great. I think since my birthday was a couple weeks ago, I've maybe had a little too much sugar, and that gives me some symptoms. But anyways, going off on a tangent, back to sleep. So I'll just tell you what I tell my health coaching clients, and maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. Self-care for autistic people has some good tips as well. So no electronics before bed is a big thing, which I know is hard because a lot of us want that white noise stimulation. You want to sleep with a show on or put a movie on to fall asleep. My ex-husband would always have something on. It was usually Ancient Aliens. So if you put Ancient Aliens on now, I will fall asleep so fast because that's what he always put on to go to sleep. But then like he had trouble sleeping. My husband now my current husband has to fall asleep with his phone like 4 inches from his face, and he's not watching it. He's just like listening to a YouTube video. But again, I'm like, that blue light is in your eyes. I don't know how he sleeps. He sleeps even harder than I do. But it's the blue light that's going to keep you awake. So no electronics before bed. Or, put your phone or device like on like dark mode or nighttime mode, whatever they call it, to like take the blue light out. My phone does it automatically at 10 o'clock. You can set your phone to automatically do it at a certain time. I should probably set it earlier to like 9 o'clock. They have like blue blocker glasses, which I'm wondering where mine are. I normally wear them when I'm filming these, but it's okay because I have to be up all night. I'm going to work at the poker room after this. There's very bright fluorescent lights in there. That's how I'm able to stay awake. I'm also bad at transitions. So waking up and going to bed are really hard for me, but I can just stay up for hours, especially in bright fluorescent lights. So no electronics before bed, no doom scrolling, just put it away. I think that, especially lately with everything that's going on, starts to ramp up my anxiety. Not just seeing what's going on, but seeing people's like indifference and ugly remarks. Like that's what really gets me riled up, right? Like everything that's happening is bad enough, but the people, the comments upset me even more, I think. And so I need to not start my day or end my day with that. But instead you can do something like reading, like out of a book, not an e-reader, anything that's going to have blue light, but like an actual book, or do, a craft, work on your crochet, things like that. Doing something with your hands, but just nothing with bright light. And I'm not going to recommend any kind of supplement or anything because that is not my place, but you can talk to your doctor or other healthcare provider about what they recommend. Might be a supplement, might be medication. Some people like to just drink tea before bed. I think just having a nighttime routine to kind of, put the electronics away, maybe read for a bit, maybe do some really gentle yoga, have a cup of tea, just some kind of like wind down routine. Because again, routines are really hard. So like just getting up off the couch, putting my phone away and going straight into like brushing my teeth and like taking my supplements, that can be a lot. But like if we turn the TV off for a little bit, I put my phone down, I read for, I kind of do other things just to kind of soften the transition. That helps me. And then the other part of physical health, other than stress management, is exercise. And exercise is important, but it's not always fun. So I think finding exercise that is fun to you. I like to walk on my walking pad, and I like to do the walkthrough videos of like walking through New York or walking through Japan. Like that's really fun to me. Or you can just watch another video, like if you just whatever you already watch on YouTube. Or go to like a fun exercise class, or watch a video on YouTube and work out at home if you don't like going to classes. Nothing that's too overstimulating, right? Like going outside for a walk or a run when it's really hot or there's mosquitoes and dogs barking and cars driving by, that can be not very fun. So maybe you can either like go to the gym at a time that's quiet and like put headphones on, or work out at home, just anywhere that's not going to be too overstimulating. That way you can, kind of take as much time as you need to get your exercise done. And something else you might like is like working out in the water, like water aerobics or swimming, because the pressure of the water, like the gentle pressure of the water, can be very soothing if you like that feeling. And just some other like quick notes about physical health, that also hygiene also comes into play. And I know a lot of people don't like brushing their teeth, flossing, that kind of thing. Oral health is very important to your overall health. I was a dental hygienist for 6 years. It's an awkward angle. My tattoo's in a weird spot. There we go. I was a dental hygienist for 6 years before I was a massage therapist, and I've seen it all. good and bad. And I do understand that toothbrushing can be very unpleasant to some people. So again, it's just like the vegetables. It's kind of just finding what works for you, right? There's toothbrushes in different textures. I do recommend not going any harder than a soft. So like soft or extra soft, ultra soft. There's also water picks, which again, you can turn up. I wouldn't go higher than moderate pressure unless you're just cleaning out braces. Then you could use higher pressure, but like a soft to medium pressure with the water pick can feel really nice. You can add mouthwash in it. You can do warm water, cool water, cold water. If you can't do that, then at least mouthwash. There's mouthwash. Most mouthwash is mint, obviously. But there's some that's like really strong and has alcohol in it. There's alcohol free that's not very strong. Even just swishing with water or salt water, like a saline solution, just something to clean your teeth is very important. You don't have to use toothpaste. It's really just the mechanical brushing that's going to clean your teeth. You're supposed to do it for 2 minutes, but do it as long as you can stand. Work gradually towards the back, work gradually towards brushing your tongue, especially if you're a gagger. And also very important is not brushing / drinking water after eating food or consuming anything acidic like coffee or sodas. If you're not, whether you're going to brush your teeth or not, just drink water after those things. That's going to help kind of get the acid and the sugar off your teeth and help neutralize the acid in your mouth a little bit quicker. So yeah, I could probably make a whole video just about oral health and your different options there. And alcohol. I know there's kind of like a joke in the autism community that's like the autism leaving my body as soon as I have my first drink. I get it. I'm so much more social when I've had a drink, and it can make you feel more relaxed in social situations. But I do think that also leaves us open for alcohol and substance abuse. I know I definitely abused substances in my late teens, early 20s. When I was in a really toxic relationship, I was around people that partied a lot, but it was fun to feel relaxed and not awkward around people. And that led to drug use and drinking too much, which can have detrimental effects on your health, whether it turns into a full-blown addiction or not. Any amount of alcohol is not healthy. Now, I'm not saying that certain alcohols, right, like red wine, that's what we hear all the time, right? Oh, well, red wine has health benefits. It can, but only if you are otherwise unhealthy. So if you're not eating well, you're not exercising, then yes, red wine has been shown to have some cardiovascular health effects. But if you're eating a little bit more whole foods or eating heart healthy foods, if you're doing any kind of exercise, then red wine does not have any benefits. Alcohol only has harmful benefits. So just something to keep in mind. When I learned that really solidified my decision to stop drinking. Another issue that I personally, and maybe it's related to the autism, maybe you can relate to this, a personal problem I have with alcohol is not knowing when to stop, because we have really bad, not proprioception, but just, being able, feeling the sensations in our body, right? Not realizing that I'm more buzzed than I thought, not feeling it hit me, or thinking I'm warm just because we're outside when really it's the alcohol telling me to slow down. I have a hard time kind of gauging how I'm feeling, and then that would always lead to drinking more than I wanted to and getting more drunk than I wanted to. And I didn't like that feeling of kind of not being able to control that. And even though I was in control, mentally, but physically, I couldn't feel how drunk I was getting. And so I stopped drinking at the beginning of the year. So that's physical health. That's a big chunk of it, right? Emotional health. really honestly depends on having a good support system. And I know not everyone does. So I absolutely realize that, I have the privilege of a very supportive partner. I hope you do as well, whether it's your partner, your friends, even if it's one friend, your parents. Our emotional health really comes down to who are we around, who are we interacting with, knowing your triggers, knowing your emotional triggers, knowing when physical overstimulation can lead to emotional overstimulation, knowing your triggers and communicating those with your loved ones or with the people around you. And, as autism does get more recognized, I think people are a little bit more open to hearing things. Yes, maybe they're uncomfortable if you're like, saying things like, hey, I'm feeling overstimulated. But, if you tell, like maybe if you're like out at a concert with a friend, right? It's hot, it's loud, you're not feeling well, y'all haven't eaten well that day, just not really feeling good. Your friend will probably be receptive to you saying like, hey, I'm not feeling so great. Can we go sit, somewhere quieter? Can we go sit under this tent? And whether your friend knows you're autistic or not, I think our generation and younger, so millennials and younger especially, are getting a little bit better about holding space for each other and just being more understanding in general. Therapy talk gets a lot of hate, and I think rightfully so, because people are using it to gaslight each other. But just communicating needs as neurodivergents or neurotypicals seems to be a little bit more well received in some circles. I understand not everywhere. But whether your friends, family, coworkers know you're autistic or not, it is still important to communicate when you're feeling some type of way, if that makes sense. And if it's not a safe place to, if you're in a business meeting and things are getting heated and you're getting really upset, and if you express that, you're going to get in trouble, maybe it's just time to just step out. Either don't say anything, which can be really hard with that autistic sense of justice. Maybe just take a breath, take a pause, find another outlet, write something down, sit and think about it, send an email later, ask for a quick break, just kind of whatever you need to do, go hide in the bathroom and cry if you need to. It's hard. It's really hard to kind of balance your own needs with things like work responsibilities, right? Because not everyone is understanding. I will say, a lot of our emotional health also comes down to our communication with the people around us. And if someone misunderstands you, that's on them. We have a tendency to over-explain and thinking that, oh, well, if I just keep explaining it, you'll see it my way. Typically not. We have to learn to just accept that sometimes we're just going to be misunderstood and just let that go, as hard as it is. Over-explaining typically doesn't work from my experience or any experience that I've heard. People tend to just kind of get annoyed with us. And now we're both emotional because now we're both annoyed with each other. But, overstimulation, burnout, breakdowns, those are all very normal for neurodivergence and in autism. So find ways to comfort yourself, whether that's just taking a breather, taking a break, taking a moment, taking a day off, finding your comfort, having a comfort item with you or going to get your comfort item, laying down under a weighted blanket, just kind of whatever you need to do to snap out of it or slowly release out of it or process your emotions, however you want to handle it. it's not always going to be the same. It's situation dependent. Sometimes you're in a situation where you need to just snap out of it and let it go. Sometimes you have that space to process. It depends on the situation. But, things like comfort items, blankets, noise canceling headphones, or putting music on headphones can help support us emotionally. And the self-care for autistic people has some great advice on that too. So, cultural wellness. Now, typically from a health coaching perspective, when we talk about cultural wellness, you are talking about your cultural background, right? So like I would be Japanese American, or you might identify as Mexican or Hispanic. It's typically more based on genetics, right? On your race or your culture, right? Or ethnicity, I guess I should say, is what I'm trying to say, on your race or your ethnicity. And in many cultures, autism is not accepted. It's denied. Our families might say like, no, you don't have autism. No. My kid's not autistic. They just like to cry, right? Like the SNL skit with Pedro Pascal. My boy is not depressed. He just likes the dark, right? It's like that. It's like mental health issues are oftentimes just swept under the rug, when really the truth is everyone in the family has struggled with something at some point. And so one, they're in denial that it's a problem, right? It's like, that's normal. It's normal to feel that way, because they might not know that it's not normal to feel that way. And so you bringing it up can be very triggering to family members. But you are still valid, whether your family recognizes, your diagnosis or not. That being said, there are other kind of cultural groups that we might fit in with that aren't necessarily our family or our heritage. But, what about the queer community? Or what about the fandoms that you're in? Or what about the furry community? Do they call themselves a community? I'm not sure. But I know a lot of furries are neurodivergent. And so that's like their culture, right? Like you still have other cultural groups that you're a part of. And I think that's a really good way to connect with other like-minded people, other neurodivergent people. A lot of these groups I'm in on Facebook post the same things, right? Even though one might be an LGBT group and another one is specifically non-binary and another one is specifically autism, and then one's ADHD, and then one's ADHD business owners, they all, kind of overlap. We have not necessarily things in common, but things in common because there is so much overlap in these very like specific groups with neurodivergence or autistics. So that is a really good way to still kind of like build that cultural wellness, which it kind of goes in with like social wellness as well, because those are, social groups. But a lot of the times we may identify and connect with our found family more than our birth family. And so that can be a good way to take care of your cultural wellness, is to get involved with those different groups that you may be a part of. Now, occupational wellness is a big one because 75 to 85% of autistics are unemployed or underemployed. And so that has been a big struggle with me my whole life. I'm pretty sure I talked about it in one or two other episodes, where I basically almost got fired because the boss thought I was giving him attitude, said I rolled my eyes at him, which I'm literally just thinking right now, and I'm probably look like I'm rolling my eyes. So who knows if that's what I was doing. I would never like intentionally roll my eyes at this guy. He was insane and would like scream at people. So like, why would I ever give him attitude? I was terrified of him, like most of us were. There's been a paint chip on this microphone the whole time. It's been distracting me. Okay. So yeah, I think maybe some of us start out employed and get fired. Because of the social issues at work. We don't connect with the other coworkers, or the other coworkers pin us as weird. I think oh, I lost a flower. I was like, there's a sticky right here. I did. It's on the floor. Oh, I don't have one there. I did have another flower there, though. Why would my coworkers ever think I'm weird? So, yeah. So our coworkers can pin us as weird, or we just don't connect with them. I definitely felt like all my coworkers were always closer, even though some of them had been there forever. Some of them had just started. I was just like, man, that's nice. They all get along really well. Like, wish I got along with them like that. And, you still get invited to lunches and stuff, but you kind of still always feel like you're on like the outside of the group. Like maybe they all have a group chat without you. And they probably do. So that can cause conflict at work for sure. You also may need accommodations and not get them. And that makes it really hard to work somewhere. And, for me, I was only diagnosed with autism like a year or so, maybe a little over a year ago, which means I went my whole life kind of needing accommodations and not knowing that and just pushing through it. And what happened? Substance abuse, depression, anxiety, rage quitting jobs, almost getting fired. Just being miserable in general, having a really high stress level and not really understanding why, because maybe it wasn't a high stress job, but it's like, man, just all these things that needed to be addressed but weren't. And sometimes, some things just aren't going to be accommodated, depending on the job. But I just feel like if I would have known I was autistic, I think everyone would have been a little bit more understanding with me. And maybe I could have, worn earplugs and things like that and not had to hear so many noises, and maybe I wouldn't have been as grumpy. I don't know. It's so hard to look back and say maybe things would have been different. Well, maybe they wouldn't have, maybe I would have been bullied more. I don't know. But, you may need accommodations. You may need to take more breaks. You may need different hours. Oh my God. If I would have been able to start work at 10 instead of 7:30 and just worked later, it would have been amazing. I would have been so much happier. I'm not a morning person. Maybe you need to wear noise canceling headphones or listen to music at work. Maybe you need to work in an office by yourself. Maybe you need different lighting. There's all kinds of things that can interrupt our work day and our mind at work. And so knowing what accommodations you need and what to ask for can help. But again, how many jobs are actually willing to accommodate us? You'd have to have an official diagnosis, right? And then you'd have to have a note from your doctor saying what accommodations you need. Because then if they don't follow it, then they're breaking the law, right? The ADA law, for not accommodating your disability. But if you go into an interview and you tell, and you're like, yeah, you sound amazing for the job. Anything else we need to know? Oh, well, I'm autistic and I need to wear headphones when I work and I need to start at 10 a.m. Well, now suddenly maybe you're not the best candidate and suddenly they can't accommodate you, even though that's illegal to discriminate. We all know employers do discriminate when they hire. So yeah, I can give you advice all day on how to accommodate yourself at work, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. And there are, because autism is a disability. Not everyone thinks so. I don't know why. It obviously is. So yeah, so you can try to accommodate yourself or ask for accommodations. Try being the key word. Or you can find a job that has accommodations built in, like working for yourself. I'm a self-employed massage therapist. I set my own hours. I used to not start until 11. Now I start at 10, which still isn't great. It's a little early for me, but my day was just running so long and I have so much time between appointments that I was like, no, I really need to start at 10. And it's going okay. It's good. But I set my own hours. I set my own breaks. I control everything because I work here at home. I wasn't always able to control stuff because I've worked at a few other places doing massage and they were loud. Like I worked at the airport. It was loud and I had lazy coworkers and the places would be messy and it drove me crazy. And really the noise, the temperature of the place would either be too hot or too cold. You have no control over like construction workers coming in or what music is being played. And even if you have the most relaxing job in the world, giving massages, that can be very stressful if you're not in the right environment. So anything where you can work for yourself, maybe you have crafts that you like to make and you want to just sell online. You don't even have to go out to markets because those can be hot and noisy and you have vendors next to you that are loud. But again, even if you did, you could accommodate yourself. You could wear your headphones. You can bring a really comfy chair. You can bring a book to read. You can ask the event organizer to never put you next to that person again. You can make accommodations because you work for yourself. So that's one thing you can do. You can also like find a job that aligns with your special interest, right? Like if you love animals, you could get a job at the local aquarium or zoo or front desk at a vet's office. Sounds a little stressful. I wouldn't want to be answering phones all day or dealing with people, but the zoo sounds fun. The aquarium sounds fun, right? I know we have autistics that work at our local aquarium and they even have like a sensory Sunday. I don't know if they still do it, but they did for a while. It was like one Sunday a month they would open an hour early and I would take my son and it was so cool because it's not crowded at all. They're not playing the music. They don't have the bright lights on. And we were literally like chilling in the exhibits by ourselves. It was amazing. So yeah, finding a job in your special interest would be pretty cool. My special interest is like health and wellness. It has been for a long time. Like ever since I like started going vegan for the first time, I've just been into like nutrition and like keeping the body healthy. Just like anatomy and physiology in general are kind of special interests of mine. So doing massage was really cool. Like I loved anatomy class, learning all the muscles and the kinesiology and everything and the physiology and the pathology. And then now I'm doing health coaching, which is really cool. And vegan nutrition and I'm doing my yoga teacher training, which again is like just very like body oriented. And so that's been fun as well. Okay. Last page of notes. How are we doing on time, guys? I'm going to have my husband edit this. So, cause that's one of his special interests is video editing and like VFX and stuff. So, don't ever ask him about VFX unless you want him to talk your ear off. And I hope he hears that. So interpersonal and social wellness. We talked a little bit about this as far as emotional health, because our emotional health is kind of dependent on, again, situations we're in, people we're around, things like that. We do tend to attract other neurodivergent people. That's how I realized I was autistic, was these two friends of mine. They're twins. And one of them got like medically diagnosed, like by a doctor. And then her sister got diagnosed. I'm not sure if the sister self-diagnosed, but she was like, I was diagnosed with autism. And her sister was like, well, of course you were. I was, and we're twins. And before that, I always thought I was not autistic. I didn't even think I had ADHD just because I have the inattentive type and I didn't know there were different types. So it's just like, no, like I'm not really chatty. Like I'm pretty chill. I was like, I'm not like you, friend who was telling me I have ADHD. But it turns out she was right. So yeah, like my ex-best friend, both ex-best friends, one had ADHD and the other one autism for sure, maybe ADHD like me. I've had a lot of coffee today. That's why I'm so squirmy. Sorry if you're watching this. and my squirming is distracting. But yeah, we tend to attract other neurodivergent people, right? Okay, so that's what I was saying was I didn't think I was autistic because I didn't relate to like a lot of the really stereotypical stuff, which I've told my story at least in a couple podcasts now. So you know that. But then she started posting her experiences and I was like, oh, well, that's definitely more relatable. And then so I ended up, just seeing more autism content and relating to more of it and taking the Radzar autism test and scoring super high. I felt like I got an A on it, so I was happy about that. But then when I started posting about being autistic and my experiences, then more of my friends were like, hey, so like, how did you find out? Because now I think I am too. And I'm like, yeah, you are, right? It's like The Shining. It's like, once you have it, you can find everyone else. And I said the same thing about being a witch too. I never thought I was a witch, and then I realized I was, and I was like, oh, well, now it's obvious who else is in this circle. And it feels like that with autism, right? Like I can pick it out in a crowd now. Oh, I wanted to call someone out, but I'm not going to. But I will say a close friend of mine, I have hung out with their family, and I'm like, oh, that cousin's autistic, right? And that aunt is autistic, right? And they don't know because they all act alike, right? So that's the thing, is that autism is genetic. It runs in families. And I think that's why it goes so undiagnosed, especially in women, is because, like, yes, maybe it's like, it's obvious that we share the anxiety and the depression. Like, oh, well, the mental health stuff, it runs on my mom's side, blah, blah, blah. But like the really subtle things that bullies are able to pick up so easily in us aren't obvious in families because like everyone's neurodivergent in some way, right? Like I feel like people with ADHD don't recognize those quirks in autism, or if they do, they don't bother them. So because we also share like a lot of those same traits. And so, yeah, so this friend's family I was hanging out with, I was like, dude, like, your whole family's autistic. You know that, right? And they're like, well, maybe the one cousin. And I'm like, at least the one cousin. But that's the thing, is I don't think any of them are diagnosed. I don't think any of them would ever know, because they're all just so used to it and used to acting like that, right? I think the in-laws, the people that are married into the family, maybe think, your family is a little quirky, aren't they? And I'm like, I know why. So, so we run in packs, right? We attract other neurodivergent people. Now, maybe back in like high school, you were probably friends with neurotypicals and friends who didn't actually like you, right? Or people in your friend circles that bullied you. I actually ran into my high school bully. I say bully. It's not like she ever like particularly picked on me. It's just she would make comments. Like she obviously didn't like me. We had mutual friends, and I'm pretty sure she would like talk crap about me. And even like in elementary school, she wasn't very nice to me. But she would like call me weird and, oh, you're so weird. Oh, why would you say that? Like she would make fun of my clothes and stuff behind my back. And I ran into her at a restaurant a few months ago. And I hear her talking to her friends. There were some friends from high school and, some other people there, but I think they all worked together. And what was she doing? She was talking about the weird lady at work. She's like, oh my God, so-and-so is so weird. Like, she's so annoying. And I wanted to go up to her table and be like, hey, that coworker you're talking about is probably autistic. And that's probably why you don't like her. Because that's the same reason you didn't like me, right? Yeah. So that was a little triggering. But, neurotypicals just, they'll probably even say, oh, no, I don't hate anyone because they have autism. No, but you think we're weird and you think we're annoying and you don't like us. And maybe you can't pinpoint why, but you don't like us. And sometimes it is obvious why they don't like us. They don't like how blunt we are. They don't like that we don't make small talk or that we don't beat around the bush, which I'm like, if we're in a work meeting, why wouldn't we just be straight and upfront with each other? Like, I'm not here to, for the fluff. If we're like, hey, God, my hands are so purple. They're like, okay, if we have this issue and we need to solve it. I'm like, okay, well, I think the issue is this and I think we need to do this. And they're like, oh my God. Like, God, Lauren, you were so intense in that meeting. Because I had an answer? Because I had a solution? Because I didn't sit around twiddling my thumbs being like, I don't know, what do you guys want to do? I can't stand that. That's why I don't work with people anymore. Well, now I work at a poker room now, but again, like that's not my crowd. I know my place there. I know my place is like, I just come in, I do my own thing. I know I'm not an expert in what they do. I know very little. So I come in like very humbly, into their space because a lot of these people know each other. They've known each other for years. Like I'm just there to do my job. No one tells me how to do my job. I don't tell anyone else how to do their job. I come in as an independent contractor. Like these people are my coworkers, but not really. Like they get paid to keep the place clean and restock everything. And like, I just get paid to go in and massage, right? So it might be different if I was actually an employee as well and I had kind of the same expectations as them. Then I could foresee conflict like, hey guys, why am I the only one picking up trash? You know? But that's not the dynamic. So because that has been issues in other places I've worked as a massage therapist and before that, of just coworkers not liking me, misunderstanding me constantly, saying I'm too mean, I'm too blunt. And I know I have a really like high standard. I know I can be like kind of strict on other people. But I also hold myself to that same standard. So it never, would come from a place of like condescension. It would just be like, like, hey, like this is what we need to do. Like this is work. This is what we're here to do. And it, I was young and immature, in some of these jobs as well. And not as understanding and not as empathetic as I am now. I was very much in that mindset of like, well, I can do this. Why can't you? Like, why is this so hard for you? Versus now I'm a lot more empathetic and realizing that people all have different backgrounds and different education and different strengths and different weaknesses. And so I think that just comes with maturity. And I'm going on a tangent again. But when it comes to that interpersonal and social wellness, protect your peace no matter what. Learn to walk away from conflict and misunderstandings. We have that autistic sense of justice where we like kind of want to have the last word. We want to make sure we're understood. Sometimes that's just not going to happen. You have to learn to just walk away. And I think some people seek to misunderstand us. And you're not going to change that by over-explaining. You're probably going to make it worse, if anything. But lean on your support system of people or person. Even if it's ChatGPT, even if ChatGPT is the only person you have to talk to, lean on your support system of people that you feel like do understand you. Because when you're around neurotypicals all day, like it almost feels like gaslighting. Because they won't speak plainly to us and they beat around the bush a lot and use a lot of figurative language. And you're just like, okay, I feel like I'm the crazy one in this situation. And I don't want you to feel like that. And being around the wrong people will make you feel like that. Or you're just like, am I wrong here? I don't think I'm wrong, but I don't know. Now I'm starting to question myself, right? So, hang out with neurodivergent people if you can. I think autism and ADHD go together like peas and carrots. So I think we balance each other out really well. Like my husband has ADHD and I have autism. So we like to say that we rub our two brain cells together to make an idea or to get something done, right? When really we just mean like we're using both of our strengths together. And so the last thing is intellectual wellness, which I think from the autistics that I know, I think we're pretty good at this because we have our special interests, right? So it's pretty easy to, have intellectual stimulation when you have a special interest that you know everything about or you want to know everything about. There's so many resources out there. There's a whole world of knowledge out there. I know people say like chronically online, like it's a bad thing, but I'm like, but you can learn so much online, right? The University of YouTube. I mean, there's, books and documentaries and podcasts. You can go down the YouTube rabbit hole. I mean, there's just literally a world of information and misinformation, unfortunately. But when it comes to whatever your special interest is, there is most likely information out there on it. And so it's really fun. You get that like hit of dopamine to learn something new. And so it's really good to just stay intellectually stimulated. Or sometimes you just get those hyperfixations where you just want to learn about something new. And so lean into that, right? There's nothing wrong with having a hyperfixation, even if as soon as the dopamine runs out, you're never going to talk about that again. You're never going to look at it again. You're going to get bored of it and put it in a drawer and it goes away. Okay, well, so what if you only learned to crochet for a week? It made you feel good for a week, right? So, do be careful about spending too much money on crafts and hyperfixations, right? We do also want to be mindful of our financial wellness and not spend a bunch of money on every new hyperfixation. But it is good to be intellectually stimulated. And, it doesn't have to just be learning. It could be reading fiction or because fiction content and art and manga and books and TV shows, fiction has just as much benefit, I guess you could say, as nonfiction. So maybe you're not like learning specific facts, but there's always lessons to be learned. There's always characters to relate to. There's always conflict to be resolved. So if you're not into nonfiction, like that's okay. It can still be intellectually stimulating to really think about a storyline. That can be just as stimulating. So that is it for today. I am so wired right now. So I'm sorry I was bouncing around a little bit. Maybe I'm just excited to be back in front of the camera. Or maybe it's this bright light in front of my face. But I did have like a cup and a half of coffee today because my first coffee was so good and I wanted another one. So I came home and recreated it at home, but with only like a little bit of caffeine. So I also just haven't eaten that much today. I've been really busy. I am not being very physically well today. I had a coffee and a half and I had a big lunch at like 2, and I don't think I've eaten since then. So I have to get going to work. I hear the garage. My husband just got home. So, I mean, my makeup and hair is already done. So I really just have to eat and pack up my stuff and go to work. So thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry if I was going off on tangents a little bit, but I tried to follow my notes as best as I could. And I'll put the little, like the table of contents in the description. And if there's anything that you want to suggest or any other like self-care type content or books you want to suggest, by all means, put those in the comments. If you have a question about anything, or if you want to see like a whole specific video about any of these things, any of these dimensions of wellness, or really just anything in particular, let me know. Because I don't just do podcasts. I do make like other videos as well. I just get like very chatty and these end up being an hour, and so that's going to be a podcast. But if you give me one specific topic, I can try really hard to make like a 20-minute video on it. Your wellness goal for this week. I want you to set an alarm to put your phone away an hour before your bedtime. That is my suggestion if you're open to it, if that resonates with you. If sleep is something, or a nighttime routine is something you are wanting to work on, that would be my little tip for the week. So this has been your witchy autistic vegan NB host, Lauren McNabb with w.a.v.e. Wellness. Thank y'all for catching up with me and sticking around. I will see you in the next one. I don't know what the next one's going to be about. It'll still be about autism, because it's still Autism Acceptance Month. We'll see. We'll have to think about something. Leave me a comment with a suggestion. Or we're going to have to ask ChatGPT for a suggestion. All right. Y'all have a good one.